Hey, Prime members, did you know that you could be listening to this episode and every episode of Funny 'Cause It's True ad-free on Amazon Music? That's right. Prime members get access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts. To listen, download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/FCIT. With Amazon Music, you get access to the most ad-free top podcasts. Avoid the ads and listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free with the Amazon Music app or by visiting amazon.com/FCIT. That's amazon.com/FCIT. If you struggle with anxiety or depression, let me start by saying you are not alone. Hers can help you find the support that you need. Through Hers, you can get access to real medical providers 100% online. The process is simple. No insurance, no doctor's appointments, no pharmacies, just mental health treatment. To get started, go to forhers.com/Elyse. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Lemonada.
Okay, actually, can you just pretend that you're listening to a fully complete theme song here? I got really in my head, and I tried to make it perfect, and I couldn't. So this is going to be the theme song right here. Hello, and welcome to Funny 'Cause It's True. I'm Elyse Myers. Today, I'm talking to comedian and writer Josh Johnson. He's written and performed for The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and is currently a writer for The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Here's the thing about Josh Johnson. He's so incredibly talented and creative that once we start talking about his craft, we kind of just don't stop. If you haven't seen his special Up Here Killing Myself on Peacock, absolutely go watch it. It's amazing. Any hoops? Two things that are funny because they're true. Number one, I tried to encourage Josh at the end of our conversation, and as the encouragement was leaving my mouth, I was like, this doesn't feel right, but I think that it'll be received well. And he did receive it well, but listening back, it's because I sounded like I was scolding him. I just sound like I'm like angrily telling him that he's funny, which is really weird. And number two, Josh taught me a bunch of new comedy terms that I had never heard before. So my dictionary is really growing. Thank you so much, Josh. Okay, let's get into it. Josh, hi. How are you doing?
Doing well.
I have been watching your special Up Here Killing Myself, and I have to just tell you, I am so inspired by your level of comedy and the way that you tell a joke and then also make it serious and not serious, and you strike such a balance in your comedy that is so unique and so hard to do. And I'm so curious as to how you learned how to craft jokes like this.
That's very kind. I definitely don't know how to take a compliment, so I'm sure I will weasel my way out of it eventually.
Josh's voice is so soothing that if he read audiobooks, I would for sure use them to fall asleep at night. And I mean that in the least creepy way possible.
But I think that right now it looks like something happens, whether I feel like it's funny or not. And I'm able to think about how I feel about it. But I think that with the time and the amount of comedy that I've done, it's become easier along the way to go ahead and figure out how to make that relatable to another person. So there will be things that could happen to me or could happen to you that will never happen to the other one of us, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that for the most part, comedy, especially if you set yourself up well with your level of self-awareness, your level of connection that you can breed with the audience, you end up in a really good position where people are at least trying to see where you're coming from. And just by them putting in that effort to try to see where you're coming from because they like the last joke, they'll potentially like the next joke. Now you have the leeway that you need to make the type of connections that are unique and funny and will make people think about something that in a different way than they have before. And so I think that's also why you find so much success with clapter. Are you familiar with?
No.
Okay, so clapter is basically someone says something that at least to the audience in front of them is just obviously true, but maybe is a bit in contention right now, right? So then they'll say it, and then there's almost this pause, whether it's intentional or not, and then everybody claps.
Personally, I'm the person that claps at everything because if I ever attend like a live show of any kind, whether it's comedy or not, I feel like it is my personal job, my full-time job in that show to make as much noise as I possibly can and as much noise that is appropriate. Because if not, how does the person on stage know I don't hate them? Right? So in summary, I am the problem. Is it like they're making a point where it's like, that wasn't funny, but that is true, so I'm going to respond to you by not laughing but making noise so that you know that I know that that's right?
Yes. It's like any special that a man has had where he says, look, a woman has a right to her own body. Applause, 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 applause. Like, no joke's been said yet, you know?
Okay.
And they probably have a joke coming. But I think that, like, clapter and the opposite of clapter, which is not even letting someone finish their idea before you kind of shoot it down in your mind, are these two things that you have to balance, because you could just pander and get laughs / clapter, and you could just fully troll and get a bunch of hate and maybe some laughs because people like that you're trolling. But there's a thin line down the middle of those two things, and to me, that's what comedy is.
Do you think that the way you grew up impacted your comedy?
I think that for the most part, I grew up and have been around so many like diametrically opposed groups of people that even if I think that their opinion or their way of going about things is horrible, there's sometimes where I can see where the person is coming from because I've known people like them who didn't behave the way that they behave. And then I also have my own sort of like ideologies or just things that I believe to be fair or right or true or whatever. And so I think to call myself being objective would be unfair, but I think that I try to approach things with as much of a universal mindset as I can. And then that also helps me distinguish what's serious from what's funny, from what's laughable to other people, from what's just funny to comics. Because then there are some jokes that I just don't do. There's jokes I've written that I don't do because I'm like, it's not going to be taken the right way.
Yeah.
Like I think a more skilled version of myself down the line or a slightly different world would digest the joke differently. But for right now, I think it would just make me sound like I'm coming off as a troll. So there's been jokes that I've written that I'm like, it's also about a level of self-awareness and how people perceive you and how they'll receive things that come from you.
Have you always wanted to do comedy? Did you grow up just wanting to do this?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think I wanted to do it before I knew it could be a job.
Oh, really?
Like when I was little, I think I was telling people I was going to be a scientist or, like all those other things that you have like a slight interest in when you're little.
Yeah.
And then you take to more when you get in school potentially. And I think that for me, everything that I wanted to do required too much math and science for me to actually delve deep. Like by the time I got to 8th grade, I was like, oof, nah.
Yeah.
And I'm 13. So it's only going to get harder from here.
My first college math class made me switch my major to music. So heard that. You said you always wanted to do it, even if you didn't realize it was a job. When did you realize that it was like an opportunity that you could make a job?
Like embarrassingly late. Like when I was maybe like 22.
Were you doing something else and then shifted to comedy? Like, did someone go into it?
Yeah, I was studying design in theater and was going to go into lighting for like Broadway shows and for concerts and stuff like that. And I found out both through gigging myself and through, my mentors and everything, how unstable that type of career is, how you're going to go to competition with people who have already been doing Broadway shows for 30 years.
I just was speaking to somebody, Brian Baumgartner, who was like wanted to be full-time Broadway, had mentors, Alice and Janney, that were on full-time Broadway, like people that were like all day, every day working and getting gigs, saying no to things, and they were still worried about how they were going to pay their rent. And the person I was speaking to was like, and that's when I decided to do acting on television. I wasn't trying to be an asshole, like name dropping 1,000 names. So I didn't say that, but I'm saying it now. So just an ass, not the whole. It's interesting that you like studied to do something that you thought was going to be more steady. And then you're like, actually, that's not going to be steady. So I might as well do the thing that I really want to do, which is equally as steady, if not more. I don't know, maybe equally.
Yeah. I mean, from what I knew getting into it, it was going to be equally as steady outside of success, if that makes sense. So then by graduation, I'd say, I was like, there's no way, which felt crazy at the time because I had just gone into this debt and achieved this thing. And I was like, oh no. I'm holding my diploma like, oh no. And then I moved to Chicago and immediately just start doing open mics and everything. I was like not horrible, but I could see how far there was to go because I was going to shows after the open mics, whether it was sketch, improv, stand-up, whatever, and I would just watch people like on some like God mode where they're about to move to New York and make it. That was
like, am I watching you be discovered right now?
Yeah, like that happened a few times where now there's people who I still look up to, but they were in Chicago while I was in Chicago and were just further along in comedy than me. But then moved to New York and popped, and it was great and everything. And I think that really helped. And that was how I sort of accepted, okay, even if I don't do design, even if I low key like wasted my degree, I'm curious enough. And I'm having enough fun learning from my peers and getting good at this thing. And I wasn't really good at talking to people when I was younger. And so comedy became a way for me to sit down and think about what I think and then express it in a way that people get. And so that's been the biggest, I guess, return from comedy outside of any like money or anything like that is the fact that I communicate with people now in a way that is a bit more concise and a bit more enjoyable for both of us. Because I made, when I was young, it was bad. I was like, I think I had a lot of anxiety and I was really like people could tell that I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't know how to word anything, you know, and I think that was a big struggle for me.
We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Josh talks about how writing for other people compares to writing for himself. So I had no idea about this. Apparently, Amazon Music lets you listen to podcasts totally ad-free if you're a Prime member. They offer listeners the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts, including Funny 'Cause It's True. And you may or may not know this, but earlier this year, Amazon Music decided to feature my show on a billboard in Times Square. That was so surreal, you guys. I actually flew out with my family to see it, and I'm so glad that I did. It meant so much to see myself up there. We started just as this small idea to like share some of my most embarrassing moments to ending up displaying in the middle of one of the busiest cities in America. Thanks to Amazon Music for showcasing it and helping more people find our show. Amazon Music was proud to feature Funny 'Cause It's True, and so of course I am now happy to feature Amazon Music. There are so many good podcasts on their platform, plus a mind-boggling amount of songs, and Amazon Music wants to help you discover all of it. To listen, download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/FCIT. Avoid the ads and listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free with the Amazon Music app or by visiting amazon.com/FCIT. That's amazon.com/FCIT. Every Plate is just next level creative with some of these recipes. I mean, caramelized onion burgers with Dijon aioli and potato wedges, sweet and spicy ponzu pork meatballs with roasted broccoli and buttery rice. These meals are so indulgent and delicious that you'd never believe that Every Plate is 25% cheaper than grocery shopping. Every Plate can help you get more bang for your buck with 25 tasty and affordable recipes to choose from each week. Plus, you also have your choice of 22 sides, snacks, desserts, and more. Better yet, Every Plate offsets 100% of their carbon footprint to your door, and their meals have a 31% lower carbon footprint on average than supermarket meals of the same portion. What surprised me the most about Every Plate is how quickly the meals come together. Not only am I saving a ton of time by not waiting in line at the grocery store, but I'm usually done preparing dinner and ready to eat in under 30 minutes. Plus, I always have leftovers, which are the best part of cooking, let's be honest. Get started with Every Plate for just $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code Elyse149. That's everyplate.com/podcast and code Elyse149. So your special Up Here Killing Myself has such an interesting concept because one moment you're sitting in a room with your therapist having a very serious conversation about your past and your trauma, but then all of a sudden the camera cuts to you talking to the crowd about those same topics. It's so seamless.
Maybe I'm afraid of having kids.
Can you tell me what scares you so much about parenthood? Are you afraid you won't be a good father?
Do you remember when you believed in grown-ups?
Do you remember that? Remember when you were little and you were like, the big people, they know. And then you got older and you're like, fuck, nobody knows.
And I'm just curious if the way that you structure your jokes and like the way that you write, does that help you process what you're going through with your life and all of that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's basically the way that we came to use the interstitials the way we did, is that I went to the director, Jacob Menacci, I went to him early on with the concept and what I wanted to do and everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was the one that really helped me figure out how to do it, like how to both make it pop in its look and how to communicate it. And we had a lot of discussions about in between what jokes to do it and everything. And I think that for the most part, that's why you see when you watch the special, me either say something or be asked a question in therapy that I don't know how I feel. But then by the time that you actually see me on stage, I'm not only sure how I feel about it, but I'm able to give it away now because I have sort of like processed it. That to me is the whole process of what therapy does for people and what comedians do to write. And I think that what some comedians who are in therapy probably do. Like, I think that the thing that makes the special unique to me is that, at least in its connection with process, it's unremarkable.
The more I meet musicians and comedians, the more I realize that their art is just like a very public way to process and heal from their own personal trauma, as is my own art. So it makes sense.
This is what everyone is doing, you know? And I was just able to visually illustrate the thing.
With you saying that, like, you giving it away because you've processed it, when you write for other people, like I know that you wrote for on The Tonight Show, correct? When you're writing jokes for other people, are you able to approach that differently, like when you're not the one delivering the content?
To be fair, when you're writing for other people, you do get to pimp them out in a sense because you don't have to say it. They have to say
You're right.
it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I think that the power of I don't have to say it, they have to say it, can sometimes you can go a little wild with it, and now
true.
you're saying things you would never say. I don't believe in this whole idea of like punching up or punching down. Have you heard of this?
No.
Oh, okay. So basically, punching up and punching down is this concept of like, if you have more power than a person and you're making fun of the person you have more power than, you're punching down, right?
Okay.
So the example is like an able-bodied person doing jokes about disabled people or something
Got
like
it.
that. Punching up is like punching, jokes at people with more power than you. So like
Got
that's,
it.
political humor or whatever, right? I don't know if I believe in these concepts because I think that there's too much intersectionality in the world for there to be a chart, for there to be a fair assessment of what every power is and who you can do a joke about, if that makes sense. Because it's like, if I'm writing jokes about white women, well, it's like, I'm a man and they're women. Technically in society, I have more power than them, but they're white and I'm black. So does that even it out? Or is one higher than the other? And it gets into a sort of like identity politic debate around doing comedy that I think, as long as everyone's actual goal is to make everyone laugh, none of that stuff should matter. I totally understand how it can if you do see someone being more mean-spirited than funny, it can leave a bad taste in your mouth, and I fully accept that. And I think understanding why people don't laugh is as important towards making them laugh as knowing what makes people laugh. But I think that for the most part, when I'm working on things and when I'm writing for a person, I see it as an opportunity to, here's a joke that even though I wrote the joke and even though I think the joke is funny or true or smart or whatever, I know it'll be better received writing it for this woman to say it rather than me saying it, where people might perceive me as like being, like just being a dick or something.
That's fair.
You'll find it's the people with the worst lives that make light of the things that they went through. It's usually someone whose problem it is not that's the most offended on behalf of the people who they are sort of righteously indignant about. If you're going to take in comedy, I would challenge anybody who believes that they have a sense of humor all the way to the biggest comedy fan to also look at whatever their prejudices are and whatever their sort of sensitivities are and ask yourself if those are actually being attacked or if you just don't like this thing because you are, it feels very present to you, you know?
Time for another break, but when we get back, we hear about Josh's 2020 mixtape, Elusive. When you're working on reducing your anxiety or depression, it can be so overwhelming just trying to figure out where to begin. My advice? Don't tackle it alone. There are people who can help you take a step back and assess your options, then find the best one for you. Hers offers access to mental health care that can support you in your day-to-day, including dealing with anxiety and depression. At forhers.com, you can get access to real medical providers who can prescribe trusted mental health medication if it's right for you. The process is 100% online, including free unlimited check-ins, provider messaging, and support along the way. Plus, to make things even simpler, you can get your first month of treatment for just $25 if prescribed. To get started, go to forhers.com/Elyse. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Hers has helped empower so many people to find the best treatment for themselves, putting it back in your hands. Get started today at forhers.com/Elyse. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Offer only available if prescribed. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. Additional restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Do you take a million photos and only let them sit in your phone for ages? Well, what if you could put all of your photos from random camera roll pictures to high-res wedding albums onto one gorgeous frame? You can now with a digital frame from Aura. Named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter, The Strategist, and featured in hundreds of gift guides, Aura frames are guaranteed to make mom or grandma smile. An Aura frame brings all your photos and videos together in one stunning high-resolution display where mom can really enjoy them, aka not a group text or on social media. Aura lets you preload any frame with meaningful memories and a special message that will appear as soon as it's set up. Could not be easier. Plus, you can invite the whole family to add to the frame, letting people contribute their memories from wherever they are. Oh, and did I mention there's free unlimited storage? Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com. That's AURA frames.com. Use code Elyse to get up to $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver frames. This deal ends on May 14th, so don't wait. Terms and conditions apply. So your mixtape Elusive is another project that's on a completely different level. Did you write for that? And did you also perform on that?
Yeah, so basically with Elusive, in case the people listening don't know what it is, it's a mixtape that I made back in 2020 where I have a hybrid. So it's basically two jokes and a song, two jokes and a song, two jokes and a song. And then the song sort of finishes the idea of what the two jokes were about. And so for the stand-up portion, those are my two jokes. That's each time that's me. And then for the music, I wrote all of the music except one song. I co-wrote or wrote the songs and then I had my friends performing them and everything. So there was a little confusion where people thought I was singing, and I kept being like, guys, I cannot sing. I'm not, because then I didn't want to take credit away from these like great collaborators that I had and stuff. Even with Elusive, I feel like my goal is to try to create something similar with comedy, or at least my comedy that music has, because stand-up's very much of the time. You know, you don't really hear about kids stumbling on to this 50s special or this 50s album that's like fire and they love it. It's like, no, if you listen to old Bob Hope, you're not going to get a good portion of it. And it's not because he's speaking a different language. It's just different things were funnier back then.
Yeah.
So the sense of humor was different, but also the pacing was different. Like now in a world of TikTok, you can literally just get right to the joke. And back even as recently as the 90s, there still was this thing of like, paint a picture for me. Like you're telling me a story and now
10 minutes of a story.
And you watching it back will be like, what am I looking at? There's like 8 jokes in this whole special. But for the people there and for the people when it came out, they're like, this is brilliant. This is amazing, you know? And so music has this benefit of being digestible whenever you hear it. So the music that's new to you is new music. And the conversations I was having in 2019 and 2020 were just like the solidifying thing of, okay, I'm gonna make something. It's gonna be comedy based. The songs are not funny, but I think that what it will do is add at least a timeless aspect to the project, you know? And so even if there's something that people don't end up getting about it, like let's say years from now you're listening to Elusive and like years and years and years, like hopefully we all live this long, but like years and years and years.
When I'm listening to it 60 years from now.
60 years from now.
Okay, pause really quick. This moment right here, I picked 60 years because this was supposed to be a joke because he said, you know, hopefully we all live this long, like years and years. And I said, yeah, like 60 years from now, we'll be listening to this. And in my mind, I was like, hopefully I'm alive in 60 years. But what I should have picked was a number like 600 years because that would have made more sense than 60 because when I said 60, all it sounded like was, I don't know, maybe people will be listening to your stuff in 60 years, like a complete diss, not like a joke in terms of like, I'm going to live forever, I'm a vampire. But then he didn't really understand that that was my joke. So then he responded well and was like, yeah, totally. 60 years from now, like taking a dig at his own self. And then I wanted to jump in and explain, hold on, that 60 was meant for me as a joke for me. Like one day I'm going to die. But then if I went there, I would spiral because if I think about the fact that everyone's going to die at some point, it really throws me off. And that's usually not funny. So I just let it go. But I couldn't let it go fully because I'm doing this for you right now about it.
And then you're like, all right, I don't know what Tender is, but like that funk song was pretty cool.
Wow.
You know? And so it's a way to bridge that. And I think that the more ways that I can do that, the more I'll be able to look back on a catalog that I'm really proud of and that I think I did a lot of interesting things with. Because I have so much deep respect for stand-ups, and the process that it takes to bring an hour, whether it's an hour recorded or an hour performed, to people, right? But I think that we're slowly getting past this world of just doing straight stand-up for the people in a way that is that anybody can do. I think that famous people will still be able to get away with it, but I think that for the form and what makes it closer to the arts is to like touch on frames and push specific limits by just a touch. Like even in the special, when we did Up Here Killing Myself, we were like, we don't want to make it half and half because that would be too much. But if you just clock back in and if you pop back out and if you have check-ins with the audience that that this is the framework that we're working under, and then this feels more like a story. So you do have that retention where people want to see what happens in the end, if that makes sense.
It's like a talking head in a reality show, or like a narration in a POV kind of like show, like Gossip Girl or something like that. I think that you are very funny, and you could just talk and people would listen because you're great.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
Your style of comedy and your creativity are so unique that no one can do what you do. And like, I know that there are people that do things like this, but not like you. What you're doing is working, and
no,
you're
I appreciate
you're funny.
It. No, that means a lot to me. Like that's the reasoning that I am like trying to take those big swings, because a part of me is like, I think this would just be cool. Like even if it's just for me. Like I remember the week before Elusive came out, save for myself, because it would sound insane to just be like, no, I just listened to it over and over again. It's like, I understand
you
a
were
lot
allowed
of it
to
is
say
me
that.
talking.
No.
I re-listened to the music over and over again because I was like, wow, we like really did it.
Yeah.
That's crazy that we really did it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that I feel a bit more comfortable now, especially having that cosign. Not that you should need other people's opinions, but the thing that is worthwhile and the thing that is a confidence boost as any artist is that sort of
recognition, appreciation for what you're doing.
And like sponsorship to a degree. Like when people co-sign on you, I think that it at least reminds you you're on the right track. I definitely feel for people, like if we talk about before social, I definitely feel for people who had to believe in what they were doing for like a decade straight
before anyone would take a chance.
Yeah, with no with no pats on the back, with no like attaboys or anything.
Yeah.
And then they just were in this world of I really hope I'm right, because you can be wrong. Some things have never been done before because they're bad ideas. Like, so, like there are things
or they don't
out
work
there.
because they're bad ideas.
Yeah, they like don't work because it's like, oh man, what if we did this? And I've even had things like that where I tell everybody on my team, I'm like, if I ever say something that sounds crazy, you should tell me.
I need you to tell me. Yeah.
Because I won't know.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel. I feel for people. I've even told audiences this in shows. I was like, I hope everyone listening to this podcast, everyone listening to the sound of my voice, I hope that 2/3 of your dreams come true. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good number, and it keeps you sane as a person.
And grounded, and also like working hard.
If every dream you ever had came true, you would lose your mind.
Yeah. 2/3. Honestly, that's a really beautiful sentiment to like give people when you're performing for them.
Yeah, yeah. It's still most. It's still
most of them. It's the majority. Man, okay. Well, I'm really grateful that I got to talk to you today, and everything you do is 2/3 of what you do is so good.
There we go.
Well, cool. Yeah, it was just very, very good to meet you, and I'm so grateful, Josh, that we got to chat today.
Yeah, great to meet you too.
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Josh Johnson. Check out his special, Up Here Killing Myself, on Peacock, and his album, Elusive. If you like the show, give a rating and a review. It helps other people find us. All right, be back next week. Bye. There's more Funny 'Cause It's True with Lemonada Premium. You'll get access to all of Lemonada's premium content, including My 5 Questions with Josh Johnson, coming out this Friday. Subscribe now in Apple Podcasts. Funny 'Cause It's True is a Lemonada Media and Powder Keg production. The show is produced by Claire Jones, Zoe Dennis, and Linnea Tony. Our associate producer is Tiffany Bowie. Rachel Neal is our senior director of new content, and our VP of weekly production is Steve Nelson. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Paul Feig, Laura Fisher, Kesla Childers, and me, Elyse Myers. This show is mixed by Johnny Vince Evans, additional help from Noah Smith and Ivan Krayev. Our theme song music was written by me and scored by Xander Singh. Follow Funny 'Cause It's True wherever you get your podcasts, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.
Hi, my name is Kelsey McKinney, and I'm the host of Normal Gossip, a show that is now back for its 4th season with Radiotopia. Normal Gossip is a show about the petty, the ridiculous, and the strange stories that surround us in the world, and the way that we share those stories with each other. In the top half of the show, Normal Gossip investigates how gossip functions in the world and how we use it for good, for evil, and for neutral. The stories are sent in by listeners, anonymized, and retold to a guest who is asked to weigh in on the actions, beliefs, and decisions made by the people in the stories. We have a great time on this show, and if you love mess, please come join us.
If you love Lemonada content, a quick, easy, and free way to help us keep our shows running is to fill out our anonymous listener survey. By just answering a few questions, you can help us find new brands to connect with and also share feedback about show content you'd like to see across the network. And even better, once you've completed the survey, you can enter for a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. The survey is short and sweet and will help us play ads you don't want to skip and also keep bringing you content you love. Just go to lemonadamedia.com/survey. Survey. 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 Survey.